The New York Rangers can't score. They can't freaking score.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1403 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So here we are talking about another Rangers home game, which has resulted in the Rangers being shut out for the third time in as many games to start the season as we all slip closer and closer to complete insanity. And the reason why this is so frustrating, I mean, it's always kind of frustrating when your team gets shut out, but it's the very simple fact that of these three games, the Rangers have played very well in two of them. Not so much on opening night, but these last two home games against the Caps and now the Oilers, you have to I would say just about every other part of their game other than the fact that they cannot put the puck in the net. And yes, I know some people are going to say, well, you can't win if you don't score. And if you don't score, it means you're not playing well. I get it. I get the fact that eventually this team needs to show a little bit of finish. This team has to just will a puck into the net. I understand. But again, the frustrating aspect of everything here is that other parts of their game are coming along very nicely. And you do hope that eventually the way they're playing, the brand of hockey that they're going with every single night, that it eventually, bears some fruit and they start stacking some wins. But man, this is tough right now. 2-0 loss to the Oilers last night. Oilers ended up with an empty netter at the end of the game. But as far as the tangible reasons for how this is happening, I think we need to kind of start there today, because let's just try and figure this out from a practical standpoint. I think right now, it's the following day. They played last night. It's now in the morning. And I think we're all over the initial shock and just disbelief that they didn't score and that they've been shut out, 3 straight times at home to start the season. So let's try to actually dissect this a little bit. So first of all, I just got to throw this out there. It is not happening due to a lack of shots on goal. Now, there may have been times where the Rangers in this game last night could have shot the puck and they opted to pass instead, looking at you, Artemi Panarin. But it's not happening, these shutouts, they're not happening due to a lack of shooting the puck. They are 0 for 90. That's where we're at right now. Rangers had 30 shots on goal last night against the Oilers. They had 35 against the Caps. They had 25 against the Penguins. 0 for 90. 0 for 90 on shots on goal in the 3 home games that the Rangers have played. These are not anemic shot totals. Even the opening game against Pittsburgh, where the Rangers largely did not play well, that's not like a dreadful shot total. I mean, you want more shots on goal than 25, but teams have won with fewer shots on goal, and it's not like a miserable total. So, I mean, it's just crazy. 0 for 90 to start the season. But as far as why this is happening, I think it's a combination of things. We're going to look at all those reasons, and then we'll try to figure out the best ways to fix it. So to begin with, I think, and some of you pointed this out too, not enough bona fide snipers on this team right now. Not enough true blue, pure goal scorers. To kind of just look at the top players on this Ranger team right now. Panarin can shoot the puck. He just keeps choosing not to. There was a play in the first period that got a lot of people buzzing on social media, and I think a lot of people just being left aghast as far as why he didn't shoot the puck on this play. And most of you probably know the play that I'm talking about if you saw this game last night. But Panarin actually made a nice play in the offensive zone. He was able to steal the puck, get possession back to the Rangers. And then Mika's kind of crossing. He was either just in front of Panarin or just behind him. But either way, he gets to the right side of the net, and Panarin passes over to Mika. Mika then back to Panarin. A lot of defenders, and obviously the goalie Skinner, he committed to Mika on this play. And the pass goes back to the left side of Panarin. Panarin's got a wide open net, and he's in deep. He doesn't shoot the puck. I mean, he did. He eventually shot the puck, but he stick handled a couple times. Looked like he was going to try to pass back to Mika for some reason, and then finally decided to shoot the puck. By then, it was too late. The element of surprise was over, because I think a lot of players in the Oilers who were on the ice, including Skinner, believed that Mika was going to shoot. Once he didn't shoot and got the puck to Panarin, the net was wide open. Shoot the puck. And of course, delaying for as long as he did. I mean, eventually Skinner's going to move back over there and get in position. And that's exactly what happened. And he was able to make the save. So I don't know what was going on there. generally speaking, Panarin just not shooting the puck enough. I believe it was 8 shots on goal in 4 games prior to this one, and just 1 shot on goal in this one. So Panarin with 9 shots on goal in 4 games, not good enough. I understand he had the injury, missed the preseason, missed time in training camp and whatnot, but you need more than this from Artemi Panarin, and it begins with shooting the puck. As far as other guys, I mean, you're looking for snipers and looking for guys that are going to be able to put the puck in the net and guys that are actually feared when it comes to their shot, among the opposition. Mika Zibanejad, I mean, this is a weird one because he actually right now leads the NHL in shots on goal with 22. And I realize it's early, and I realize certain teams have played more games than other teams, and that can skew it quite a bit this early in the season. But facts are facts. He does lead the NHL in shots on goal with 22. He's got 1 point in 5 games. It is a goal. He's not really going to the one-timer all that often. I mean, a couple of times here and there, but I don't really mind that because what we saw from the one-timer from Mika Zibanejad last season was not good. So the fact that he is trying some different things, I think, is encouraging. He's driving to the net more often than we've seen in recent seasons, and he's ripped off a couple of really nice wrist shots as well. For the most part, though, obviously just not getting rewarded for it. But here's hoping that Mika can eventually, start bearing the puck. And then you look at JT Miller. I mean, he's another one. He's just not shooting the puck enough right now. Only 8 shots on goal for JT Miller in 5 games. And he, like Panarin, obviously was suffering from an injury during the training camp, during the preseason, only played in the 1 preseason game. But, I mean, hey, this is game 5 now. It's time to get it going. And I haven't really noticed JT laboring or anything in the more recent games, like maybe we did in the first 2 or so games of this season. So, I mean, I don't know if the injury is still an issue or not, but I mean, look, you've got your top 3 forwards here, or at least the highest paid forwards in Panarin, JT Miller, and Mika Zibanejad. They have now combined for just 2 goals in 5 games, and that's just not good enough. That's not going to get it done. And if you look at the rest of the lineup, like who are the other snipers? I mean, Will Cooley can shoot the puck a little bit, but, he's got 1 goal on 12 shots thus far. Lafreniere, yeah, no, I don't think he's the sniper either. Just not seeing it. Just not enough dangerous looks for Alexis Lafreniere when it comes to shooting the puck. So that's one of the biggest reasons. The fact that, as far as why they're not scoring goals, it's the fact that they don't have enough bona fide snipers. And we didn't even get into the depth players in this team, many of whom are not going to exactly strike a bunch of fear into the hearts of the opposition when it comes to their offensive prowess. But another reason for the Rangers, not scoring at all on home ice thus far, they've been getting goalied. I know some people are nervous right now. Fans of the Rangers are nervous right now because when you look at the goalies that they've faced in these home games, it's not exactly a collection of Vezina candidates. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being honest here. But you've got Shelovs, you've got Lindgren, and you've got Skinner. And I got to give a shout out to Lotus in the YouTube comment section. I think it was one of the shorts that we uploaded recently. But he mentioned this isn't exactly Shesty, Helly, or Bob. And that is true. The one thing I would say to that, though, is that even mediocre goalies in the NHL, they're in the NHL for a reason. They can certainly have a night. They can have a night where they, play a little bit better than you're typically expecting. And, they just stand on their head, whatever the situation might be. Now, Shelovs, that was just, it didn't really matter who was in net for the Penguins on that night, I don't think. I mean, the Rangers just didn't play well. They didn't create enough scoring opportunities. So that one's kind of a moot point. As for Lindgren and Skinner, I mean, they both played very well. I thought Lindgren really did stand on his head. Skinner made some nice saves, but, it was really just a case of the Rangers not being able to finish. I thought more so in this one than anything else. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not too worried about the fact that they've gone up against so-so goalies and haven't been able to score. I mean, again, I think they both played, Lindgren and Skinner both played, above what they typically would on any given night. Puck just won't go in. And speaking of which, another reason the Rangers haven't been scoring, the puck luck. Look, I know you have to make your own breaks and you can't rely on luck and all that, yada, yada stuff. But they haven't been catching even the slightest amount of breaks when it comes to these home games and when it comes to their scoring opportunities. The Rangers hit the post/crossbar no fewer than 3 times in this game. It might have even been more like 4. Schneider had a rebound that he just absolutely fired off the post. There was no chance that Skinner was stopping this one. Sam Carrick, who played a hell of a game in this one. He was one of the best players on the ice for the Rangers. He had a partial breakaway where he basically took on the entire Oilers team, got behind everybody, and just wasn't able to finish. I believe he went backhand, forehand on the doorstep. And then Brodzinski, I mean, this one was kind of off the outside of the post. It wasn't really that close to being a goal, but he did take a shot, and you heard the ping right away. He clearly drew iron on that. So those are the 3 that I remember. I feel like there might have been one other one where maybe somebody hit the crossbar. might have been one of the bigger name players, the guys that you would expect to score. Not sure if it was, Mika or JT, but a lot of iron in this game, and obviously no lamp being lit. So that's obviously unfortunate. And, the power play, I just want to throw this out there too. They don't have a great success rate, but honestly, I thought the power play looked pretty good in this game as well. You don't want to have a 4-minute power play like the Rangers did, and there was like 15 seconds of 5-on-3 time right in the middle of that and not score. But I thought for the most part, during that 4-minute time frame there, the Rangers looked good. Maybe not so much in the final minute or so, but they were creating chances. They were getting pucks into high danger scoring areas. They were getting away good shots and being creative in the offensive zone, just couldn't score. And then a power play later in the game was basically more the same. So I don't know. I mean, those are the reasons that I'm coming up with. If there's anything else you guys want to throw out there, certainly feel free to mention that. I know some people are going to talk about Kreider. What do you have? 2 power play goals last night, and the Rangers don't have a net front presence. I mean, that just, of course, that happened, right? I feel like with Kreider, it was just time. It was time on both sides, but would I be surprised if he had a great season for the Ducks? No, I would not, and that would just be the ultimate, thing to happen for the Rangers and their fans. But in just a second, all right, we've talked about the reasons why this is happening. I think in just a minute, we got to shift our attention to maybe some solutions. How can the Rangers fix this? Is there any magical wand they can wave? Is there somebody they can call up from the Hartford Wolfpack? We'll discuss that in just a second. And also going to discuss the benching of Urho Vaakanainen and why when everybody is healthy, he should be scratched. We'll get to all that good stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you will unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel is the best because it's got something for you no matter how you like to bet. Whether you're in to player props, or you like those same game parlays, or you want to bet for your team, you want to bet against your team, whatever it might be, FanDuel has got you covered. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers, well, we already did that part. Okay, so we're thanking the everydayers now. We're thanking the everydayers as always. See, this is what happens, man. The Rangers go 3 straight home games without scoring a goal. We all start to lose our minds at least a little bit here. But for the everydayers, we got to shout them out as always. The Rangers are going to be at the Leafs on Thursday at 7 p.m. They're on the road, so maybe they can score a goal. We will see. But whatever happens in that game, that's going to be our next episode. We'll break that down from every angle in the next one. For right now, though, again, shifting our attention to tangible, actual, strategies, tactics, ways that the Rangers can fix what ails them when it comes to scoring. I mean, just to throw out a couple of ideas, I know some people are going to mention this. You could shuffle the lines a little bit, but I don't even know what you do. I mean, first of all, you're without Trocheck. So a team that was already lacking in depth and lacking in scoring depth is now lacking both of those things that much more. And even if there was an obvious solution, like move this guy up the lineup or drop that guy out of the top 6 or whatever it might be, I don't know that I would be too trigger happy to do that, which sounds crazy when you've gone 2 straight games without scoring a goal. But by the same token, these guys are generating scoring chances. I saw not too long ago, if you guys will bear with me for a second, Steve Valiquette sent out the Clear Sight analytics thing that he does. Basically, it just tracks, scoring chances for each team throughout the night. So the Rangers in this game, and again, analytics are not everything. They're not infallible. They're not perfect. I think we all understand that. But the Rangers were credited with 31 scoring chances to 19 by the Oilers. The Rangers they had an expected goals total of 3.68 to 1.33 by the Oilers. That does not account for the empty netter. And as far as high danger scoring chances, the Rangers outchanced the Oilers 10-3, and medium danger scoring, it was 5-4 in favor of the Rangers. So it's not like they're anemic. It's not like they're hopeless or they're completely lost out there. It feels like the Rangers are generating scoring chances. And again, I'm kind of like 50-50 when it comes to analytics. I think they certainly have their place, but I just don't want to see hockey become a computer simulation the way that baseball has. So for that reason, I'm always a little bit wary. But when you watch this game, I mean, this sounds about right. Like the Rangers very clearly played better. They very clearly, had more scoring chances than the Oilers and probably deserved to win that game, but obviously it didn't happen. But getting back to this whole idea of shuffling the lines, again, I don't even know what you do. In a sense, they already have shuffled the lines. And here's what I mean by that. Edstrom, Carrick, and Rempe moved up to the third line. Laba, Brodzinski, and Radish moved down to the fourth line. I know that's kind of a funny way to say it. And obviously, all those lines are intact. Those two trios are all still together. But when you watch this game, I mean, it was very noticeable. And then when you check the time on the ice after the game, it was even crazier. The fourth line for the Rangers, at least for one night, basically became their third line, and the third line became the fourth line. Because of Edstrom, Carrick, and Rempe, the player that got the least amount of ice time was Edstrom with 13 minutes and 31 seconds. And of Laba, Radish, and Brodzinski, the one that got the most ice time was Laba at 7:53. So the Rangers' supposed fourth line almost doubled the supposed third line in time on the ice. But I don't think that was like out of place or like weird to do that. Anybody that watches this game, you could see that the fourth line, particularly Carrick, and I would say Edstrom to a lesser degree, they were swarming and they were creating scoring chances, and they were making things happen when they were on the ice. They were spending the entirety of their shifts in the offensive zone. And I do have to give credit to Mike Sullivan for actually reacting to what he sees during a game. I know that's kind of a low bar, but we know from previous recent Ranger coaches that they don't always seem to react to things like this. Mike Sullivan saw in this game, that fourth line for me, they got some juice. They got some jump. They're making things happen. They're creating chances. They've been close to scoring a couple of times. They're forcing turnovers. They're forechecking like their heads are on fire. They deserve more ice time, and he gave them more ice time. And these guys were playing even late in the third period when the Rangers were trailing by a goal and looking for that equalizer. And I say deservedly and correctly so that they were, playing late in this game. Another way you can fix the scoring woes is you can call up somebody from the Hartford Wolfpack. I would think probably either Brett Berard or Gabe Perreault. I mean, I guess you can make a little bit of a case for Brennan Othman, but I mean, he had a rough preseason, didn't really do a whole lot in the scoring department last year either. I think my choice, Berard or Perreault. So Berard would be the one that I think would be a little bit steadier, and the one you can look at as being a little bit more NHL ready. But if you really want to shoot for the stars, you really want to aim big, I think Gabe Perreault is your guy. I've been kind of fighting against that, calling up Perreault so early because he has only played 5 career professional games, that being at the end of last season with the Rangers. So I think some seasoning with the Hartford Wolfpack would do him well. But the longer this goes on, I mean, all these games are important. That's something else that a lot of people are saying, like, oh, you can't just take moral victories and, all these games count the same. I completely understand that. There has to be urgency night in and night out. And that's why I'm looking for maybe a call up from the Hartford Wolfpack. Because right now, this team, I mean, despite all the scoring chances that they're creating, there's just not enough offensive punch. And you've got guys in this lineup that just aren't going to do that much. Like, are you really expecting offensive fireworks from Radish or Parson or Brodzinski? I like Brodzinski, but the upside, I think, is at least somewhat limited. I mean, Sheary looks dangerous at times, but he's had some chances to finish where he hasn't been able to finish. I don't know. I mean, the longer the Rangers go without scoring a goal, or not even necessarily without scoring a goal, but not scoring many goals, I think the louder these cries are going to get for the Rangers to call up one of these kids. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But honestly, I mean, this topic probably could have covered the entire episode as far as like, the goal scoring woes. I do want to very soon shift our attention to something else, which would obviously be Vaakanainen being benched and why I think he should be scratched. We're going to get to that in just a second. But I do want to leave everybody with one quote by Mika Zibanejad when it comes to the Rangers, obviously having some scoring woes right now and very simply just not being able to put the puck in the net. He said, "I don't know whether to laugh or cry." Oh, God. Okay, so if you showed me that quote and you didn't tell me who said it, like remove the player's name from it, just show me the quote, and you asked me to guess which player on the New York Rangers said, "I don't know whether to laugh or cry," Mika. It's Mika. Who else would say something like that? Don't say that, dude. Just don't say something like that. It'd be cringe enough if I came in here and said it, but you're actually on the team. You're on the team. Mika needs a PR guy, man. He's got to get better at this. And Mika, honestly, I know it's very easy to look at. He's played 5 games. He's got 1 goal and 0 assists and kind of throw up your hands and, oh, it's more of the same from Mika. Mika honestly feels like one of the least, concerning aspects of this Ranger team right now, because I do think he's playing well. I do think he's playing hard. There's been slightly more physicality from Mika. He's creating scoring chances. As I mentioned, he's been driving to the net on occasion as well. So I will back him up there, but just, you know what? We need one post-game, media scrum where they just keep the microphone away from Mika, because I know that he drives a lot of us crazy with some of these post-game quotes that he comes up with. But anyway, in just a minute, we're going to shift our attention to Mike Sullivan benching Urho Vaakanainen for almost the entire third period in this game, whether or not it was justified and what the repercussions of that could be moving forward, and why I think that Robertson has probably jumped Vaakanainen in the pecking order. But we'll get to all that good stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer for your team. That's where Gametime comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Gametime is the best because it's got so many amazing features. I love their panoramic seat view where you can see where you're going to be at the event before you actually get there. Obviously, when you're buying tickets, you want to have a feel for what the experience is going to be like. And the fact that Gametime offers this is absolutely awesome. So you know what you're in for before you buy the ticket. Love the fact that there's no surprise hidden fees at checkout as well. We've all been burned by those in the past. You think you've got yourself a good deal, and then there's some kind of crazy fee at the very end. None of that with Gametime. And you can even find NHL tickets for less than $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers by talking a little bit about something that Mike Sullivan did in the third period, and that was essentially benching Urho Vaakanainen. I mean, he got 2 shifts, so I guess he wasn't completely glued to the bench, but for the most part, that was a benching. It's funny. I stood up for Vaakanainen a couple episodes back because we were doing our FU meter, which I think is going to become a recurring segment on Locked On New York Rangers. You guys let me know if you want more of that. I thought it was fun when we've done it. We're not going to be able to do it after every game because certain games like this one, there's just so much to talk about. But yeah, with Vaakanainen back then, I stood up for him because I mentioned that one thing that I really like about him is that he seems to do a good job watching out for his goalies out there. There were a couple of instances against Buffalo or the second game against Pittsburgh, but he basically was just, preventing guys from getting to the goalie. On one instance, somebody was standing over, I think it was Igor. It was definitely Igor. And Vaakanainen goes in there and basically just drags him out of the crease and starts pushing and shoving him with him. So I can appreciate that, for sure. Seems like he's a good teammate. But he had a pretty rough turnover in this game that led to the only non-empty net goal of this game, which was obviously also the game winner. Basically, the puck is in the neutral zone. Vaakanainen's got it just inside the red line, tries to dump the puck into the Oilers zone. Now, he did catch a little bit of a bad break here because it probably would have been a pretty simple dump in were it not for the fact they hit the linesman. The linesman had, hopped onto the bench there like they do to try to get out of the way. Ironically, he basically put himself in the way by doing that in this situation here. But the puck hits the linesman, I think in his skate, somewhere in the lower body there. And the Oilers come away with it. They make a pass up the ice, and Trent Frederick scores on the breakaway. Vaakanainen didn't exactly get back in a defensive position as quick as he could have either. I mean, I don't think he was dogging it or anything like that, but I think it kind of caught him by surprise, and he just couldn't get into the position that he needed to get to. I think we're now in a situation where the pecking order has changed, and I'll elaborate on that in just a second. But as far as the benching itself, again, 2 shifts in the third period. The Rangers otherwise went with 5 defensemen the rest of the way against, this high-powered Oilers team. And to further illustrate, the discrepancy in the ice time, Vaakanainen ended this game with 12 minutes, 52 seconds of ice time and 14 shifts. The second smallest amount of ice time to Vaakanainen's 12:52 was Braden Schneider at 16:42. So almost a 4-minute difference. I mean, I understand that being benched is going to do that to you, but still, it's a pretty significant difference. And the second fewest amount of shifts that a Ranger defenseman received in this game to Vaakanainen's 14 would be Matthew Robertson with 20. So a big drop off, from basically everybody to Vaakanainen in terms of his usage and time on the ice in this game. And it's not the first time we saw that, because actually the last game, which was Robertson's debut, he ended up with about 4 minutes more than Vaakanainen, and Vaakanainen had by far the fewest amount of ice time in that game as well. And he wasn't benched in that one, at least not to my knowledge. He might have not seen the ice. I mean, clearly he didn't see the ice as much as some other guys, but didn't get a straight up benching. But Sullivan was asked about this after the game. Vaakanainen only getting 2 shifts in the third period, and this is what he had to say about it. Part of it is just matchups. They separated McDavid and Draisaitl through the course of the game. So we just made adjustments as far as what our defense pairs looked like. We saw Schneid's play the left side and moved him into the top 4, so to speak. That's part of it. It was circumstantial more than anything. So he wants to protect his player very clearly. He doesn't want to throw him under the bus, and I understand that. But, and there's some truth to what he says too. The fact that they split up McDavid and Draisaitl, and now they're spreading the wealth a little bit, and we got to make sure both those guys are accounted for now that they're on different lines. That's all well and good, and that has some merit, and that probably is a part of why the Rangers did what they did, not having Vaakanainen on the ice very often. But let's be honest here, the guy was benched, and he was benched due in large part, you have to think to that turnover that led to the Oilers' goal, and just due to the fact that it's become pretty clear over the last 2 games that Sullivan does not see Vaakanainen as a go-to defenseman or anything even resembling that, because his ice time in both of these games has been so much less than what anybody else has received. And I don't really fault him for that. When you look at the way these defensemen are playing right now, I think clearly he's the one that hasn't maybe, kept up as much as the other ones have, which leads me into a question that I think, eventually it's going to have to be answered. We're not there yet, but it's a question that I'll throw out there right now. What happens when Carson Soucy gets healthy and comes back to the lineup? Now, the other day, I'm getting all my days mixed up here. I think it was 2 days ago, we found out that Soucy was going to be out for what they said was at least a week. Now, the most literal definition of that would have him missing the next 2 games and then potentially coming back for, I believe it's a Monday game against the Wild, if I'm not mistaken. And so that's all well and good. I think for the time being, the Rangers will probably continue to roll the way that they have. But once Soucy comes back and everybody's healthy, for me, Matthew Robertson needs to stay in this lineup, and Urho Vaakanainen has to come out of the lineup. Based on what we saw from other Ranger coaches, Laviolette last season, Gerard Gallant a couple of seasons before that, I would have very little faith in either one of them to make this adjustment. Like, I feel like if they were still coaching the Rangers and Carson Soucy got healthy, it'd be right back to the bench for Matthew Robertson, because he's the young guy, and he's the guy who hasn't played in the NHL, and Vaakanainen's the veteran, and he's ahead of him in the pecking order, and we can't make adjustments no matter what. So I feel like if either of them were still coaching the team, and that's not to say I despise either coach, they had their strengths as well, but I don't think either of their strengths was adjusting to situations such as this. I feel like it'd be right back to the press box for Matthew Robertson. Whereas with Sullivan, I think he might actually do this. Now, there are a couple more games. We're not going to see Soucy in either of the next 2, and possibly beyond that as well. So Vaakanainen and Robertson, they're still kind of jockeying for position and making their claim to remain in the lineup once Soucy comes back. And clearly the story has not been completely written yet. But if things keep going the way they're going, it's got to be Robertson who stays in the lineup, and it's got to be Vaakanainen who comes out of the lineup. And I mentioned this earlier, but we've seen Robertson get far more ice time than Vaakanainen in both of the 2 games that Robertson has been active, has dressed for the game. So yeah, I think Robertson could, should, and will be ahead of Vaakanainen in the pecking order. We also got to mention Connor Mackey. He was called up when Soucy got hurt. Now, I do think that they'll probably stick with him as the healthy stretch, although I don't know for sure, because clearly Vaakanainen has not, in the eyes of Mike Sullivan, earned a whole bunch of ice time. We threw out all the numbers just a minute ago. Would I be shocked to see Mackey in the lineup in the next game over Vaakanainen? Not necessarily. I mean, you might just want to give him a chance. And on top of that, Mackey is somebody that plays with, some fire and some edge. And we've talked about how the Rangers, they've said it themselves, how they want to have more of that and no BS and more FU and all that good stuff. And Vaakanainen, again, I don't think like the fact that the Rangers are getting shut out every night is on Vaakanainen, but right now, it's just kind of a situation where it looks like the Rangers could sooner rather than later be looking at some different options. And the craziest thing about all this is that Matthew Robertson, among like all the defensemen I'm talking about here, certainly Vaakanainen and Mackey, of the 3 of them, he's the one that seems to have most solidified his spot in the lineup. He's just playing steady, mistake-free hockey, at least thus far. I know it's only 2 games, but I don't think we've had, as a fan base, too many, oh, come on, Robertson moments. You know what I mean? Like, there haven't been any moments where it seems like he's a liability or he makes a mistake or he has a bad turnover or anything along those lines. I think he's mostly been solid. There was a play in the first period that kind of stood out to me. One of those, bunch of little plays that kind of gets lost in the shuffle over the course of a 60-minute hockey game. But you've got a situation here where the Oilers were able to get around Will Borgen on the left side. The guy's going to the net. He's got a full head of steam. Robertson saw what was happening. And I think he also realized there was nobody really on his side of the ice that he had to worry about as far as like receiving a pass. So he got over there very quickly. He moved from the left side to the right side and bodied the puck carrier and prevent him from getting the net and basically just, rode him right into the boards behind the net there. So that was a really nice play by Robertson. And again, it's one of those things. It's not going to be on like top 10 plays of the night or anything like that, but it was just a good, solid, steady hockey play. And if we can get more of that from Matthew Robertson, that's actually a positive. But yeah, I mean, for me, when Susie gets healthy, he goes back into the lineup. I know some people might roll their eyes at that and like, oh, come on, like Susie's not. Susie had a strong game against Buffalo and then got hurt in the game after that. And I'm hoping that, having a full season with the Rangers, the results will be better than last year. I think they're at least going to give him the chance for that to happen. So I think when he gets healthy, you'll see him back in the lineup. You'll see him back in the top 4 role. I feel like at this point, though, it's got to be Robertson over Vaakanainen. Unless something very drastic happens between now and Susie returning, for me, I've got Robertson ahead of Vaakanainen in the pecking order. But you guys let me know what you think about that. And while we're talking about the defensemen, there's one more thing that I got to do here. We got to just give them props as a unit in this game for holding up as well as they did against McDavid and Draisaitl and the rest of these, 2-time defending Western Conference champions here. McDavid in this game, he had an assist on the empty netter, but whatever. I mean, that's not overly impressive. He did have the assist there. Only 2 shots on goal and a giveaway. Draisaitl had 1 shot on goal. He took a penalty and he had 2 giveaways. They really, really stymied the 2 superstars over there. And, if they were to do that, you'd certainly think the Rangers were going to win this game. Obviously, it didn't happen. And the funny thing with Draisaitl, like, I had to do a double take today. I had to look at the box score just to make sure that he played in this game. I'm not even kidding. Now, I was like 99% sure that he played, but I don't remember him doing anything as far as creating scoring chances. And McDavid, I maybe like 1 or 2 decent looks at the net, but not much of anything. So props to the Ranger defensemen and really the Rangers as a whole for keeping the 2 of them in check in this game. So yeah, I figure we can call it there. If you guys would like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @jchick17. Once again, that is @JCHIK17. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.